So you want to be more powerful, but you weren't naturally gifted. Here are 3 areas that might be holding you back. The following is a combination of rational thought, direct experience with athletes, and an understanding of physiology. When looking at an athlete or an explosive activity, the key to understanding why some can jump higher or run faster than others is linked to that athlete's ability to contract as many fibers as possible, as quickly as possible in the initial movement. These contractions produce force, and the process is often known as rate of force development. The more force you can produce faster will determine how high you can jump, how fast you can run, how hard you can hit, and so on. Guess what trains this force production aspect really well? Strength training. Particularly heavy strength training. Think of your strength training as a pool of resources that you can potentially draw upon to have a better rate of force production. The key word here is potential. Just increasing your strength alone won't always transfer directly to your rate of force production. It is, however, a great place to start. We can reliably say that when lifting a weight, your body will produce sufficient force to move the weight by recruiting a certain percentage of the available muscle that you have. As the weight increases, your body tries to recruit a greater percentage of this, and as the weights reach your maximal capacity, you will have to recruit more and most of these muscle fibers to lift the weight. As time spent on strength training increases, so too will your ability to recruit these fibers, and hopefully the amount of muscle available too will increase alongside this. Think of these muscles as workers who have the potential to move really fast, but as of yet are not very skilled at the job of explosive sports. Strength training increases the number of diligent little workers and provides you a workforce who are great at working together, but right now speed and power is a job that they're just not very familiar with and can't get it done very fast. That's where practicing the job you want then comes into play. This will be our rate of force training. It's the second part in our problem. This will be sprinting, jumping, throwing, and so on. Only by practicing the speed we want to move at can we train our ability to move faster when we want it to happen. This is partially why the world's strongest powerlifters aren't the best at jumping or sprinting. They may have the potential to move faster, but unless they train the skill to move explosively, they simply won't be able to outcompete an athlete who has been training their workers for years, even though the pool of workers or muscle and strength may be lower in that athlete. If we continue with the analogy of workers, this will help explain why a seemingly skinny athlete can jump higher than someone with much more muscle. This athlete has a pool of workers who are gifted at doing their jobs fast and efficiently. They got this from years and years of on-the-job training and training manuals passed down from previous workers. That's right, this is a terrible analogy for genetics. It really is like a compilation of training starts passed down through each generation of workers over the years. Each worker, aka muscle, may simply be worth 5 or 10 or 100 of another individual's workers. They can just do the job faster and more precisely. Now, if you didn't get a series of well-trained workers from your parents, you need to do your best to increase the pool of workers by building more muscle, train them better by heavy strength training, and increase their efficiency by doing actual power training. It's not really fair, but you can improve from where you are right now. You can always get stronger and get more muscle. But there's a third point we need to consider: your body comp and body weight. These are two things you are in control of, and you need to consider them carefully. In simple terms, more muscle and less fat is your goal here, or at least when it comes to being more powerful. Muscles are the only workers doing any work, and the fatties are doing absolutely nothing except getting in the way. The more fat you have, the more your muscles need to lift from the ground or propel higher forward through space. They make the job much harder than it needs to be. However, it's not quite so simple. Ultimately, it's not a case of more muscle. As you gain more muscle, the more your body weight goes up, and while the muscle is doing the work to move you around the place at a certain point, this muscle becomes an issue. It's not a one-to-one basis of gaining muscle, gaining speed. Determining this balance is something you'll have to figure out for yourself. You might look at a 100 kilo NFL athlete with visible abs and an 85 kilo weightlifter hitting the same vertical jump and think, what the fuck is going on? In all the athletes we've ever worked with, it always comes down to trial and error. In general, I can say a trend of more muscle and less fat is generally better, but it's not always exactly this. For example, sometimes the heavier body weight is needed for the sport at the expense of more power, or it's just very difficult for some athletes to stay lean and hold sufficient muscle to play their sport. You have to play around with different combinations of fat, muscle and strength to find the right one for you. I'll give a really quick example. A sprint swimmer wants to be faster. They need to push off the blocks harder and swim faster through the water. They will squat heavier weights, they'll practice the dive portion and the combination of jumps while working on upper body muscle and strength through rows, presses, until they've progressed sufficiently to return to their sport stronger and faster. They will then attempt to swim faster with these new markers. That's periodization, ladies and gentlemen. In conclusion, your game plan is as follows. Gain muscle, teach it to be strong by strength training, then teach it to be fast by practicing movements that are the exact movements you want to be faster at, or similar movements that use the same muscles at similar speeds. Don't be too fat if you can afford not to be. Rinse and repeat until you've got everything out of your workers that you can possibly get. It'll take years, but you can improve.